Many of us have been following the case of Ross Ulbricht, who is a person that was sentenced to 2 life terms and more, no chance of parole, and we feel an injustice was done there. And we're seeing more developments happening in different ways. And matter of fact, yesterday we had a major development in Ross's case and what's going on with him. And to find out more about that, find out specifically what's going on, we've invited the wonderful, adorable one person that we all love, Lynn Ulbricht, Ross's mother, to join us. We're so glad to have you with us today, Lynn.
Oh, always a pleasure, Terry.
And I understand that yesterday some major things were happening. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do here is we're using Zoom right now. I'm going to share my screen so that we can see this on the screen right there. What we're going to do is we're going to go over here and I'm going to look at a story here that was on Bitcoin.com. And I think you can see that on your screen as well, right, Lynn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
It's a good
You see
story.
this was news from October 5th at the Department of Justice, and they tell us that Ross Ulbricht's 144,336 Bitcoins. Well, here's the story. Ross Ulbricht attorney Paul Grant refers to stipulation of federal government seizure as a, quote, sad day for justice, unquote, and a, quote, boon for the federal government's ongoing war against privacy and civil rights. We see that 48 million US dollars released to federal law enforcement, etc. Lynn, you know about this more. Tell us what's happening with this and what's going on.
Well, it's really, for me, it's really not that big a shock that the government is getting their money. I always expected that. I never thought that that would be a fight we would have. I just want my son free. I want my son back. And the money would be very nice. But even with that money, the court says he still owes him 183 million minus, I don't even know if they apply that money to the civil forfeiture that that Judge Forrest issued in court. So it's not like if he got it, he wouldn't have to turn it over to them anyway, I assume. They say he owes them more than $183 million. So
that was part of the charges that they had against him.
Yeah. So, and part of the sentencing.
And the sentencing, yeah.
It's kind of, to me, it's kind of a academic process. We do not have the resources or the spirit to fight the government over money. We're already fighting the government over Ross's life, and that's what motivates us, not the money. And granted, I think it is. I agree with Paul Grant, but it's not a fight that we can do. I mean, you can just do so much, and it's daunting enough to fight the government over this life sentence, which is so draconian, and that takes up pretty much all my time and resources.
Yeah, well, we feel for you and we understand what you're saying. And unfortunately, it's not all happy news. This is the real life, and this is what's happening right now. So we just collectively are sending good wishes to you, to your family, to Kurt, to Callie, and to Ross, of course. Please let Ross know that we're aware of what's going on, and he is not alone. We're there. And those that are watching this, you have ways that you can get involved and let Ross know that you're with him. And a matter of fact, one way that we know we're able to do help for Ross is, Lynn, you have been able to see him. I understand he has now moved to another facility. He used to be in New York. What's Ross's status now?
Ross was moved to USP Florence. It's a maximum in Colorado. It's a maximum security prison, which is really inappropriate. All of Ross's charges are nonviolent. Just to be clear, the allegations of murder for hire were not a charge. There was no conviction involved. There was no proof involved. These were allegations made by the government and never proven or brought to trial. So there is no violence in Ross's record previous to his arrest for the Silk Road or now. And but he's in prison with at the place where they put their most violent people, short of the Supermax. He's not in the Supermax, which would be hideous. It's a hideous place. But the next step down, which is you know, it's got a lot of violent people there. Ross is not violent. And in fact, there's a score, a designation score that the prisons use to decide where to put people. And his is so low that it puts him in a low security prison, one step up from a camp. And this is including the charges that add points. So one step up from a camp doesn't even have a fence. It's totally inappropriate, but it's because of the sentence that Judge Forrest gave him and condemned him to be put in a place that is a dangerous place.
Yeah,
that
and
violence happens routinely. Stabbings, beating up. I've talked to families who their husband or father, whatever it was, this happened to them. This is real. And this is where Judge Forrest, with her sentence, put Ross.
Yep. Yeah, and I understand that there were others that were convicted of other crimes that similar to what they charged Ross with, and yet received far, far less in sentences. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, the biggest drug dealer on Silk Road got 10 years, and it goes down from there. But even more shocking is that Blake Benthall, who was arrested and admitted to running Silk Road 2.0, the sort of the follow-up to Silk Road, which sold in a month 4 times as much as Silk Road, more drugs, is free. I just found out a while ago, I was trying to find, where is this guy? Because I remember when he was arrested, he was released in November of 2014. He's free. Now, maybe he, cooperated, whatever. I don't know why he's free. But the point is, the court's point is Ross must be kept in a cage for life because he's so dangerous. It's such a dangerous thing he did. But isn't what the guy who did 4 times as much business as Ross in a copycat exact format dangerous too? And yet he's free? So it shows to me that that's not what they care about anyway.
Yeah, it seems like they had something there personally against Ross and out to hurt him. Well,
I don't think it was personal, Terry, because they didn't know him. I think it was political.
Yeah.
I think it had to do with Bitcoin.
I think you're right.
I think it had to do with Tor and privacy. I think it was a use of the internet in a way that the government couldn't control. I don't think at all that it was about drugs. That's a very apparent from the other sentences.
Yeah.
And other sentences of drug dealers. I mean, it's just, they didn't, it's a political sentence. And she even said that in her sentencing. She said, we know you started this site for philosophical reasons, and I'm just not sure you've given that up yet. And so I'm thinking, I see. So, because we can now be put in prison for life for a political philosophy. Isn't there a First Amendment about free speech in this country? Isn't that a violation? And actually, it's flat out against the Constitution to sentence someone on their political beliefs. That is not allowed legally in this country. And yet, it's pretty apparent to me that that's what happened.
Yep, I think so. As we look at what's happened and what they did, there's a lot of discrepancies there. And so I know that a lot of people are very distraught about that and what is happening. One thing I wanted to share here, though, is bring up my screen here, is we had another development that we thought was very interesting to see you and Ross. We got an actual picture of Ross. Hang on, let me go. There we are. Yeah. Tell us about this picture. It says here, Maximum Security Prison, Florence, Colorado, September 2017. Tell us about this.
Well, one of the good things about a regular prison, Ross was in a transitional facility in New York, and he only got 1 hour a week of visits, which an hour flies by. And he also only got to be outside on the roof of a building in Manhattan for a couple hours a week, and that was it, if he was lucky. At this facility, because people live here for the rest of their lives, it is a more humane environment, except for the violence. So he can go outside a lot more. He's very happy about that he's such an outdoorsy person. And we have longer visits. So visitation is on 3 days a week, and you can come for as long as 5 hours each day. So we really get time together. And so Ross's sister and I visited him for 4 weekends, and got to really spend time with him. And we played cards. You really got to talk. We talked about the case in more depth. it was just more relaxed, and we were able to, it was kind of the most relaxed, it was the most relaxed we've been with him since he was arrested. It was more like every once in a while you'd forget where you were and you could actually just be with each other. And so during that time, they have a photographer that you can buy, have them take a picture, and you buy the picture, and you can, so that was one of the pictures that was taken.
Well, that is good. I'm glad we were able to see that picture. And
Yeah.
of course, we're wishing the best. Please let Ross know that. But I also understand we have some good news. In the midst of everything going on, there's some opportunities coming up this next year for people to get involved, to learn about what's going on. Tell us a little bit about that. What has happened before, and what might be, and what is planned for happening in the future.
Yeah, well, we have been very, very fortunate to have so much support from people, and financial support, which has been key, because fighting the federal government is so expensive. It's one of the ways that a regular person can't do it. It's just about impossible. But we've had a real grassroots effort and help from some, major help from people like Roger Ver and others. And it's made it possible to get where we are now. And and we do have things coming up that are going to be very expensive. And so, because we're not giving up. And last year, Terry Brock came up with a brilliant idea to have an online conference of people coming online and talking about not only Ross's case, but how it applies to liberty and cryptocurrency and other interesting issues. And we called it the Free Rossathon, based on a telethon. And we had an 8-hour online event that featured, I think it was 35 renowned people. It was wonderful. It was amazing. And Terry and I were actually on camera for 8 hours straight.
That was a long time, but we did well, Lynn.
We did. I was so pumped up. I wasn't even tired. I was just kind of dazed by the end. But so Terry, being a glutton for punishment, wants to do it again.
Yes, indeed. We're going to go for it and do even more. We had 14,000
really
people joining us on that,
Yeah,
on that
awesome.
Google Hangout, and 14,000 people over the course of 8 hours. Went from 2 in the afternoon till 10 on a Sunday, and then raised over $50,000, and 100% of that goes to the Ross Ulbricht Defense Fund.
But actually,
specifically,
it was almost 50, actually. Roger Ver matched what we raised. That's why we did it. That's why we got to that close to 50,000 point. And that enabled us to keep going towards basically prepare for the Supreme Court.
Now there's the big news.
Is what allowed us to do that.
Yes, indeed.
So, yes, Ross is preparing with his team to petition the Supreme Court. That is the next step in the system. That's the next option you have.
So I understand
the appellate court.
So I understand we have a Free Rossathon 2018, and it's all directed toward the Supreme Court.
Well, we'll see what's happening then, but probably yes.
Yeah, to see if we can do that. Of course, there's a lot of steps to go through for that, but tell us what's involved with going to see the Supreme Court.
Well, let me just say first, before we get to the subject, I just want to say it wasn't just Terry and I who were part of this. We had a great team of people in front of the camera, Tatiana Moroz and Jim Babb, and so many wonderful people behind the camera and leading up to it. They did so much work, on this project. Gina Carr, Julia Patterson, lots of people. I hate to start naming names, but Brian Sovereign. I hate to start naming names because then I'll forget people that were wonderful and my brain. Anyway, but just really, it was a real team effort, and it was really so gratifying. So, and we pulled it off. There were glitches, of course, but it was great. As far as the Supreme Court addresses maybe one or two issues that have a far-reaching impact. They don't go into a trial and pick it apart and decide what was right and wrong like the appellate court. So it's a matter of picking those issues and there are many issues, in my opinion, in Ross's case, and hopefully it benefits everyone. It's more of a far-reaching focus. And so, and it's always been Ross's and my and our family's wish that all the spotlight on his case will have effects on everyone, not just us. Because precedent in big cases like this trickles down. We all have a stake in this because it affects digital privacy, freedom, how trials are conducted in the 21st century, the use of digital evidence in trials, which is very vulnerable to tampering without even being able to see that things were tampered with. And I've been told by expert after expert that's true. So there's a lot of things at stake with this case. It's, to me, the fact that everybody talks about drugs and murder for hire as if it were actually charged is minor compared to some of the impact that this case will have on all of us.
Yeah, I think that's right. We see that it's affecting a lot of people around the country. And so if people say, hey, I'd really like to do something, we want to be involved in the free Rossathon, as they know about that. But right now, there's ways they can contribute, they can help in a very practical way. Lynn, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, of course, there's always the money issue. There's ways to donate on freeross.org, either just straight donations. You can donate to groups that help us and others, like American Black Cross's tax deductible. You can buy through Amazon, with Amazon through our site. We get a little back for that. There's an art game based on an art that Ross did that you can play for $1, and everything just keeps going to the defense fund. So there's lots of ways to help, and also, there's a volunteer form if you have skills that you would like to loan us those skills and help to whatever degree. That's always very helpful. If you have contacts, if you have advice, if you want to communicate, there's a contact page. We're not experts in a lot of things. We're just normal people, older people who have been thrown into this. And we've gotten so much help. It's fantastic. But, whatever you have to offer and want to give, that would be terrific.
Excellent. And if someone wants to reach you directly, they want to send a message to you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, I run the Twitter account on free_Ross on Twitter. I have a Facebook account. And there's an email address on the website on the contact page, and I will see that email. I won't always necessarily answer them quickly because it can get bogged down, but I do try to respond, and I do appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, a lot can be done. So remember that. Go to freeross.org. By going there, you'll be able to see the information, all the contact, how you can get involved, updates, etc. Lynn, our hats are off to you. We appreciate you. We're sending lots of love to you from people around the world. And we just say we're going to keep going forward and wishing the best that we'll have that Free Rossathon 2018. And that will be the last one we have to do because he will be free. That is our hope.
That's our hope and goal.
Perennial optimists on that. Hey, Lynn, thanks so much for being with us today. And for those of you that are watching this, think about ways that you can get involved. This is bigger than Ross. It is about Ross, but it's also about what's going on with many, many others. And if you want to get involved, go over there to freeross.org. You'll see the story. You'll understand what's really going on. Sometimes in the media, they've distorted it a little bit to suit their political advantage. As Lynn said, it's a political issue. So get involved. Check it out, see what's there, and send a note to Lynn. I know she appreciates that when people say, hey, we're with you, just with you and cheering you on, whatever it is, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. I'm Terry Brock. Thank you for joining us here, and we will look forward to hearing from you.